Man, but excitement is always there in recruiting. So let's just jump right into it. Number one player in the country, Jackson Cantwell. For those who don't know, 6'7.5", 300-pounder out of Nixa, Missouri. Springfield. I had a Springfield guy next to me on the flight from Japan. I was talking to him, trying to get the scoop. He says that's like the big story out there where this guy's going to go. He's on local TV all the time. Talking to some sources. Well, first, let's get to, he did an interview coming off the Oregon visit with CaneSport and On3. And what he said was basically, it was great seeing Mirabal visit him. Mirabal visited him in person, unofficially, just flew up to Nixa, Missouri after the Oregon visit just to check in. And he had some interesting comments, said, great seeing Mirabal. This team is the most committed to O-line development because the head coach is an O-lineman, which, again, you hear him talk. That's what he says he cares about most is O-line development. And he keeps pointing out Miami has the best O-line development because of not just Mirabal, but Cristobal being the head coach. None of these other guys are offensive linemen. No matter how great they are, that aspect is what it is. The other thing he said, which I thought was very, very interesting, was, I'll be honest, Miami is recruiting me the hardest right now. Obviously, it's not the end-all, be-all, but there's something to be said for that. I hear from Coach Cristobal every day. I hear from Coach Mirabal every day. And like I said, they're the only program that left in it for me that has an O-line guy as their head coach, so I know they'll prioritize that. So this is what he's saying in the media. Obviously, everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens when he visits Georgia here in a few days, and then making his decision on the 13th, which I guess is a week from tomorrow. So next Tuesday, he'll be telling everybody where he's going to go to college. And the buzz that I keep hearing, and Pete, I know you're hearing similar, is that Miami feels very, very good about the relationship with Cantwell, about the plan they've set forth for him from a development standpoint, and just all the different fits. I can tell you, I listened to a 15-minute interview that Cantwell did with the Springfield local guy that he's known, like the beat writer he's known since he was a little kid, breaking shot put records. And when you hear that interview, on top of hearing what sources are telling you, this guy's not that worried about track. He knows he's going to set records in high school. He knows he's going to set records at whatever school he goes to. He, from what I'm seeing in that interview, is laser focused on O-line development. Everything he says shows that he knows Miami is the best place for O-line development. And again, when I talk to Miami, this has been the case since, since late February, when we first started talking about this in the bank. And I believe we were the first to really say, hey guys, pay attention to Jackson Cantwell. I know Pepe is the guy everybody's focus on Cantwell. Confidence remains from everything I'm hearing, Pete.
Yeah, I've heard similar as well. And not only is he someone who development is a big thing for, but I think he's someone who football IQ wise is there, right? And someone who, in terms of picking up a playbook early and all that, as a player, I think there's going to be an adjustment. The speed of the game is going to be different, right, at the next level. But a few weeks ago, then you have the and the visits coming into play. So I think when that happened, obviously, Miami still felt like they were in a good position, but as these weeks have played out here, I don't think anything has necessarily changed in their perspective.
Yep, that's what I've been hearing. And if you look at the player, the prospect, we talked about him a bunch. We'll talk about him in the week here leading up to this decision. Number one player in the country, number one tackle in the country, still raw to a certain, probably more developmental than your average number one player, but the upside's immense just because he's got the length. He's really not that heavy, meaning he's got a lot of weight still to gain. When you see him in person, you see his dad. But in terms of the power he has, it is unheard of. I mean, he's the best thrower in the country. We had Jalen Rivers, who just got drafted here by the Bengals and was a great player for the Canes, state champion in the shot put. So state champion shot putter. And Cantwell was throwing further than him when he was in 8th grade. Okay. So this guy's a whole nother level of power through his hands, just able to strike people and move people. So you take that, you take the length. He tested well in the movement stuff. Former tight end, former basketball player, not like an elite athlete in terms of movement, but good enough, I think. And then you talk about the development with Mirabal and the fact that Cantwell is really smart. I think it was like a 33 ACT pretty early in his high school career. And you just hear him in interviews. This guy has a plan for getting better. His parents are Olympians. I mean, he knows this is a serious deal to get better. So combine all that together, and you have a developmental prospect with first-round upside who you think is probably likely to hit that upside barring injury because he knows how to work, he's smart, and hopefully he has the best offensive line development team around him, which would be the Canes. And this was a great stat, Pete, that Canes posted on our board. 7 million posts and counting on CanesInsight.com. Sign up today if you haven't. The best free info, the best discussion, the best everything, most active Canes community on the planet by far. So listen to this, Pete. So this is the number one offensive tackle in each cycle since 2011. And so starting with 2011, which was, I mean, almost 15 years ago at this point. Crazy. That was like right before I met you. So here we go. Cyrus Coanjo to Alabama, second-round pick. DJ Humphries to Florida, first-round pick. 2013, Laramie Tunsil to Ole Miss, first-round pick. 2014, Cam Robinson to Alabama. Mario Cristobal signed him, second-round pick. The only bust on the list, Pete, where do you think the only bust on the list went to college? If you had to guess, what school produces the most busts every year?
University of Florida.
2015, Martez Ivey, undrafted free agent. 2016, Greg Little, Ole Miss, second round. 2017, Alex Leatherwood, first round. 2018, Nicholas Petit-Frere, third round from Ohio State. 2019, Alabama, Evan Neal, first round. 2020, Broderick Jones, first round, Georgia. 2021, J.C. Latham, first round, Alabama. This past year, Kelvin Banks, 2022, first round, top 10 pick. So of the top number one ranked overall tackles, 7 first rounders, 3 second rounders, 1 third rounder, and then the bust that went to Florida. So that hit rate on number one OT is like insane. And then you look at this next draft. The number 1 and number 2 OT, depending who you like, what list you had, was Caden Proctor for Alabama and Francis Mauigoa for the Hurricanes. I think both those guys are going to go in the first round. So whoever you had stacked number 1, either one of them is going to be a first round. So point being is this is a position where you want to get that number 1 offensive tackle.
Yeah, the hit rate is obviously very good there. And look, it's such a traits favored position that unless they're an absolute head case, right, and they aren't doing what they're supposed to do, they're going to get opportunities, right? So that's and as we just saw here, most of these guys were first or second round draft picks.
So yeah.
I want to get to this question, when it comes to Cantwell, that Nathan said is he was asking about why Wiltfong put in a prediction for Georgia. Obviously, we don't have the reasons why he did that, but are you more worried about Georgia or Oregon at this point?
Georgia, just because the next visit, so there's that level of uncertainty, to the process. I would say that. I think Miami's edge is going to be the same edge no matter what, which is the offensive line development. And Georgia put in guys in the pros this year. They had a bunch of guys drafted, no first rounders, but they had like a few third rounders on the offensive line. If I'm Cantwell, I'm saying, why are you guys one of the worst running games in the country when you had all these guys drafted on the offensive line and running back drafted high? You were in the hundreds in the run game. So something didn't add up there. Carson Beck got hit plenty, obviously got injured. So something was wrong up front. So is Curry Smart developing, and Stacey Searles, who we saw him struggle down here, are they developing offensive linemen, or are they just bringing in the best offensive linemen in the country and then turning first rounders into third rounders, right? Who don't produce consistently to their talent, which is what you saw this past year. If you look at some of the guys that got drafted, Broderick Jones, Amarius Mims, those guys were they were just getting drafted off talent. It's not like they were coming in super polished.
Isaiah Wilson, same thing. He was drafted, and he was a huge bust.
Huge bust. So is Georgia putting in pros because they're developing pros, or are they just bringing in the best guys and the body type alone is going to get you drafted, but you're not necessarily coming out as polished as you should be? I mean, Penei Sewell, not only was he drafted top 10, he is the best player. So, Jackson Powers Johnson, last year, second round pick to the Raiders, he came in and started and was good. So these are guys that are going to the NFL and playing well. So, we'll see how this decision goes. But if I'm the Hurricanes, and based on everything I'm hearing and everything you're hearing, Pete, there's a lot of confidence. Now it's just about kind of getting through that Georgia visit.
Andrew asking is if Miami's NIL money will be on par with UGA and Oregon. Look, I'm not going to get into numbers, but I don't think Miami would have even been in this discussion if the money wasn't in that same range.
Yeah, Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. So Rosenhaus has got the thing all set up. He's down here. So I don't think there's any secrets to this process from that standpoint.
He's the number one player in the country at a premium paid position. Wherever he goes, he's going to command a large number. And I think if you're talking about finalists, man, these schools all really want him. I think the number is going to be pretty similar for each of these places. It's going to come down, which is, I think, kind of, and this is a bigger discussion for another day, D. But this is, I think, recruiting is going to get back to the basics at the end of the day of, what are you actually offering me in terms of the development side of things? Do we have a good chance to win games? What does the offense look like? Because at the end of pretty soon here, these numbers are all going to look very similar in terms of these offers for these guys. And I think talking about the number one player in the country, I don't think the numbers are very far off for each of these schools.
Yeah, I don't think that'll hurt Miami. If anything, it'll help Miami. By the way, appreciate you here, Jacoby. Everybody like and subscribe to the show. We got a bunch of people on already. Interest has been hot in the portal here in recruiting. Just